Hey there folks, Ben Farrell for Benn Farrell Freelance. This is episode 9, and this week we're talking about an easy way to go from your first draft to your second draft. Hey there, Ben Farrell for Benn Farrell Freelance. This week we're going to talk about a very easy way that I like to go from my first draft to my second draft without doing a whole bunch of writing in between.
And Brenda Moore both thought it was a well-officiated first.
Yeah.
My teacher said I have to write this all again, but I don't want to.
What, you wrote a story?
Yeah.
You wrote it by hand?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy writing it by hand?
Yeah, but I don't want to write it again because it took a lot of work.
You gotta type it into the computer to turn it in anyways, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's your chance to rewrite it. Whatever she wants you to do differently, just change it as you're typing it into the computer, so you don't have to write it by hand again.
Okay.
Okay. All right, get to it. Okay.
That's right. Just about every writing project I ever had, if it didn't have a deadline, I wrote on a notebook. I still write on a notebook because I enjoy it. I love connecting the pen to the paper and feeling like my soul is coming out of my hand. Even though I'm writing it in a notebook, I would still write it in the same format that I'm supposed to do for a stage play. Now, obviously, when I get done doing that, I have a first draft, but it's handwritten, so it's not actually a first draft. However, after I've done all my writing in a notebook, then what I do is, since I have to type it into the computer anyway, I take everything that I've written in the notebook and I typeset it into the computer. But when I do that, I take the opportunity to do my first round of editing. Stage plays are usually very heavily dialogue driven, so when I'm typing what I've written from the notebook into the computer, I actually speak out the dialogue out loud to see if there's a different way it can sound. And that helps me find a different way to express what my characters are trying to say, and then when I go to type it, I can just make the changes as I'm typing it in. Obviously, having written something by hand makes it almost impossible to do full revisions. That's why you want to study what you've done, and actually when you go to type it into the computer, you take the time to see what revisions you can put in at that moment. Now, when I say preliminary edit, I mean I'm changing those kind of small aspects to what I've written. I'm not adding characters, I'm not changing the setting, I'm not changing plot lines, not just yet. But as soon as I take what I've written by hand and I type it into the computer, it's like I'm going from my first draft automatically to my second draft by the time it's already typed in. Let me tell you a little story about my mother. When I was growing up, I remember my mother writing always, and I think that's probably where I got it from. As far as I can remember, she had 5 subject notebooks. She was always writing this story that she had in mind. And over the years, she went on to another notebook, and before you know it, she had a stack of 5 subject notebooks up to here with this story that she had in her head. In 2013, my mother passed away. And unfortunately, she never finished handwriting her story. So after she passed away, my father, he decided that to honor her, he was going to take all those handwritten notebooks and actually typeset them into the computer and self-publish them to Amazon. That way, the story she had handwritten and was working on for so long would live beyond her years. It took my dad 3 years to put all that handwriting into the computer. He actually assembled a team of about 5 different people to help him and to proofread. And when he was done, he and his team had created a 5-book series based on this stack of notebooks that my mother had handwritten into. So since my father was the only one who knew the ending to the story in the first place, after all the handwritten work was typed into the computer, he actually took it upon himself to continue that effort and wrote the end of the story. So the product of that was The Songbird, Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, Book 4, Book 5, which was ghostwritten by my dad. So how is this relevant? Once again, my mom handwrote her story in a bunch of notebooks, and my dad used that opportunity, since he had to type it into the computer anyway, to make revisions and do some editing. Now, I can imagine for some of you, maybe even most of you, that doing your first draft on a notebook is probably not the way you want to do it, and that's fine. Like I said, I enjoy doing it. I got it from my mother, and it's at the risk of sounding like a hippie, it makes me feel more connected and earthy to the material that I'm putting down on the paper. The other reason I like doing it is because I can do it anywhere. I don't have to take my laptop anywhere when I'm first getting what I have in my head and I've done all my homework on out onto the page. All I need is just my notebook. I can take it wherever I go. And if you're traveling and you want to work on your writing project, then you don't have to worry about your laptop getting damaged. Just take your notebook. Again, if you're comfortable handwriting your project out of the gate, then once you go to type it into the computer, automatically, as soon as you have it typed in, you have your second draft in place. The editing process doesn't end there, but I am going to have some future episodes, more in-depth episodes on how to perform some editing of your work so that way you can get to your final draft much faster. For now, grab a notebook, start putting some ink to some paper, and consider yourself legitimately writing your first draft. This is Ben Farrell for Ben Farrell Freelance. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hey there, folks. As promised, we have a new contest period for the next 2 months. For this contest, what I'd like you to do is write a 3-sentence story to go along with the photo that I'm about to show you.
And this photo is really weird.
Okay, so send in your 3-sentence story to go along with that picture, and all the entries will be put into a raffle, and if your name is drawn in that raffle, you'll get a free copy of one of my stage plays. Which stage play are we going to offer this time?
Deadly Intentions.
Deadly Intentions. It's the only musical I've ever written. It's actually very funny, and if you want to learn a little bit more about it, where can they go?
BennFarrellWriter.com.
BennFarrellWriter.com. So that's it. Go ahead and get those entries in. I appreciate you hanging out with us. This is Ben Farrell for Ben Farrell Freelance.
And stay safe and keep watching our videos.
Keep watching those videos.
Bye.